This week's episode is brought to you by Watchtower Defense.
Hey, welcome to the Guns and Ammo Buzz podcast. Today we are going to announce the 2025 Guns and Ammo of the Year Awards. And let me preface this by a little bit of description of how we come to the awards, what the awards are about. First of all, and this is lifted from the copy that if you're a subscriber of Guns and Ammo magazine, you've already read. Guns and Ammo's editors, contributors, and staff have finalized the list of recipients for the firearms industry's most prestigious annual award. Through extensive testing and evaluation, including field use, industry events, and consumer input, Guns and Ammo considered the merits of every new product. Nominations and voting were conducted at the conclusion of the annual Outdoor Sportsman Group OSG Roundtable in Grand Junction, Colorado. Only the products commercially available as of fourth quarter 2025 and products not eligible for the previous year's awards were qualified for consideration. And when possible, Guns and Ammo acquired multiple samples of each nominated product to achieve a representative evaluation. Products that warranted any doubt in reliability or durability were struck from the list of candidates. All new designs, as well as those demonstrating the most potential benefit, the broadest range of readers, were given additional merit when scored. In circumstance of a split decision between comparable products, the most affordable option was favored during the voting process. The winner of each category was determined by popular vote, but nominated products had to meet three criteria. First, the product must have been new and available for purchase in 2025. A line extension of an existing product did not earn full points as another possessing innovative features in engineering. Second, the product must have demonstrated quality and reliability to a degree that met or exceeded its design objectives. Lastly, the winner offered the greatest availability and interest to the largest audience. Guns and Ammo staff awarded these points after surveying in-store availability and confirming retail pricing to ensure that the new products exist for sale and provide great value as described to consumers. Voting concluded on August 12th, 2025. So here are the winners for each category. And to begin, we're going to announce the 2025 Handgun of the Year is the Springfield Armory Kuna.
I forgot how much legalese we have, for the actual, the requirements to be eligible for an of the year award. It dawns on me. It's like you read it, we all recognize it, and then we kind of, you have it a short list in your head, but then actually hear it out loud like that. Oh my gosh, there are a lot of boxes that have to be checked before you're even eligible to win the of the year award for Guns and Ammo. But and Eric, the part that you left out, which is kind of fun, is how hot these debates get in the actual awards themselves. Jim, you can attest, we all have our favorites, and the actual process, if you're interested in talking about, is, somebody will nominate a said product for a category, and then sometimes there is general consensus, but then other times you've got pretty differing opinions, and let the debate begin, and the best product wins.
Well, it depends. Sometimes there's hotly debated winners, and sometimes it's unanimous or nearly unanimous. I remember last year, 2024, Handgun of the Year, Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. I believe that was unanimous on the first vote or close to it, because that gun was just such a winner for everybody. And this year, the Kuna wasn't, I don't think, quite as unanimous, hands down, for everybody, but it was easily the winner, because it was brand new product, which is more important than just a line extension as far as I'm concerned. And it was a surprise, a pleasant surprise. And I think my experience was the same with everybody else, that the more time we had hands on it, the more time we spent shooting it, the more we liked it, the more impressed we were with the product. It was a home run, and I expect to see a bunch of line extensions and variations of that very soon, because as Springfield Armory told us, because we did one of these with them for that, they sold far more than they were expected to, and for good reason.
It's a cool gun. Fingers crossed for a 10mm version. Hopefully, we see one of those in the near future. I'll be first in line for that one. But yeah, exactly, Jim. I think with the Kuna, the big debate was, gosh, it is a handgun, like on a technical level, and that was kind of the debate that was, it is in the handgun category, but then it surpassed expectations, as you said, by far. So here we are.
Right.
Well, I mean, internationally, it was designed as a submachine gun, but the version for sale in the U.S. is legally, not technically, but legally is the important term, legally a handgun, whether or not you put a brace on the back, which is, God bless America on loopholes and, exploiting them, shall we say.
Well, the Kuna came out without a brace. It initially did.
Yeah.
And then they offered the Strike Industries brace as a follow-on, especially as a lot of the states started recognizing the ATF's new interpretation of how a brace classified or did not classify the type of firearm that it was. But you're right. It usually the handgun of the year category involves a new revolver, a new semi-automatic. This was a little bit outside the box, but it didn't fit any of the other boxes as well. There was a lot of great new handguns introduced this year. So kudos to Springfield Armory introducing the Kuna. It had to beat a lot of traditional firearms to get this distinction.
Well, and as I recall, Jim, you wrote it up. It had a lot of unique features. Like there's other guns in its class, if you will, but Springfield Armory, they put some serious legwork into a proprietary design that offers unique advantages. What were like the standout features for the Kuna for you, Jim?
The big thing about the Kuna is, unlike just about every other pistol caliber, large frame pistol caliber pistol, I guess, whatever you want to call them, most, if not all of them, are direct blowback guns. And the Kuna is roller delayed blowback, and that makes a difference. It's a very simple design, but that roller delay, that roller soaks up enough of the recoil impulse that even though the Kuna is really, really light, I think without a brace, it's 4 pounds and change. It's under 5 pounds. It still has, because I shot it side by side with the Springfield Armory St. Victor 9mm. That's roughly the same size, but that St. Victor 9mm weighs a pound or a pound and a half more. And the Kuna still had less recoil than it because of that roller delay blowback system. And that's the big news when it comes to that gun.
Let me add to that feature real quick, because one of the things a roller delayed system allows you is the adaptability for changing pressures. And with 9mm, arguably there is hardly any other cartridge that has such a variety of ammunition. And we shot the Kuna with everything from, I even used a Nomex polymer copper blend hybrid bullet, Novix, Novx. Which is racing fast at near rifle velocities out of the barrel, all the way up to 147 grain, your defensive hollow points, but also the military 124 grain load. I've shot that. I've also shot the plus P rounds, duty ammo, Winchester's Rangers. I've used it, as well as all of the full metal jacket varieties of range ammunition. The Kuna eats them all, and you do not see any difference in reliability switching from one load to the next. And that, for me, is one of the big takeaways with this gun, is just its reliability in accommodating all of the people. I mean, you could go out there, I just happen to have some PMC ammunition on the shelf. Let's go to the range today. I can take it out there and know this gun is going to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Next is the rifle of the year. And the 2025 Rifle of the Year goes to the Henry Lever Action Supreme rifle. Tell us a little bit about it, Jack.
That's so magazine fed lever action rifle. It was fascinating to say the least. To say the least, 5.56 223 model and a 300 blackout model. I believe both had 16-inch barrels, but they're fed by your standard PMag that you find anywhere. 10, 15, 20, 30 round magazines, and there's still plenty of room for the lever to operate. But it is a lever action, but I mean, the capacity difference between your typical lever action rifle and the Supreme, I mean, it's not even comparable. When you can be, when you have 30 rounds, I mean, it's an AR, it's a lever action AR. I mean, there's 100 ways you could describe this gun, but it's not just, oh, we'll just stick a magazine underneath a lever action rifle. They had to, it uses an actual rotating bolt. Like they had to do a ground up design to figure out how to feed a PMag with a lever action system. And gosh, they shot well, and got a 300 blackout, subsonic 300 blackout suppressed in a lever gun. You've got no gases ejecting out of the side. You put a suppressor on that and it's going to be ultra quiet and ultra reliable. Since you are the one feeding it, that you have no cycling issues with a gas system. This is going to be a highly reliable, but with a little bit of practice, you can run this gun as fast as a semi-auto, maybe not as fast, but you can get close, and so, I mean, a lot of the advantages of a semi-auto without the disadvantages in many ways. And so, I think with practice, you could reload, shoot, reload, practice any drill you would with an AR with this lever action system. It's fascinating.
Jack, let me expand on a comment you made. You described it as it's the AR, but what it really is it's recognizes the interest in the current trend towards lever action designs right now. AR is in the sense that Henry's brought back America's rifle. This is the new American rifle.
I was I was getting like the lever gun was the AR before the AR, and now right. You've combined the best of both in many ways. And so I'm speculating, but I would be very surprised if we do not see extensive caliber expansions, different packages. I'm expected we will see, M-LOK rails in the future, more, tactically oriented, if you will. But gosh, it's a cool system. The only thing, there's no exposed hammer. And so, which, I kind of miss. I like that on a lever action rifle is that with the exposed hammer, that in many ways works as your safety. You can let that down. That's like, again, small complaint here because everything else is outstanding with the Supreme rifle.
Well, let me also note that one of the reasons this has a lot of our interest, we've seen a downtrend with AR pattern rifles throughout the United States. Maybe not in some Western states, but the United States is under attack. A lot of anti-gunners are going after the so-called black rifles, the so-called assault rifles out there. True. And this rifle is an option for people who maybe live in a restrictive jurisdiction or restrictive state, concerned about, is my AR-15 going to be legal in the future? Am I going to have some agent knock on the door and try and confiscate this? This lever action Supreme rifle appears safe. It's not threatening in a lot of ways. I mean, Henry doesn't even ship it. They offer, it will accept 30 round AR mags, but I think it ships with a 10 or 20 round magazine on it. So, in a lot of areas that are restrictive, this rifle passes that litmus test because it doesn't look evil. And for a lot of people, that's enough for them to purchase it.
Well, even if it is, the constitutional ramifications of that, like, I do appreciate that. I believe we're going to have to check that this is 50 state legal as we're filming this now. There are definitely magazine exceptions. California has unconstitutionally banned 30 round mags, same as Illinois. But even if you're in a totally free state, like I live in Missouri, constitutional carry, wonderful state when it comes to Second Amendment rights, this is still a fun gun to have. It's still a fun gun to shoot, and it competes with my ARs when it comes to going to the range and training. I have a lot of fun with this gun, so it's truly beneficial to the states like California, Illinois, but a lot of fun anywhere you have it.
Well, I will say that, you said the lever action was America's first AR. The lever action, especially when chambered in 4440, was America's first PCC. True. Which is interesting. So, Eric, I want to read to you. I pulled it up while we were here. The text that I sent you 5 days ago. So, because it's pertinent here. The resurgence of the 10 millimeter, the sudden popularity of the 5.7, .32 caliber snubbies and lever actions suddenly being cool and popular again. None of these are trends I could have predicted. We're in the 21st century and lever guns are now the hot new thing, which God, hey, if you love them, that's great, but who would have guessed, And now Smith & Wesson, Henry, everybody seems to be jumping in on the lever action game. We've got Marlin back in business, putting out solid guns. It's I don't know that we've ever had more manufacturers making lever guns than what we do right now, which is I just find fascinating.
Well, on top of that, Jim, I believe the lever action rifle is objectively more difficult to manufacture compared to your standard, AR-15 rifle. And so the fact that the market demand is high enough that all these companies are getting on board with it and willing to take on these difficult manufacturing processes, then, that shows you how popular they really have become.
So congratulations to Henry, because they have distinguished themselves with that detachable magazine variety and working the linkage in order to operate without interference.
Yeah.
Shotgun of the year for 2025 goes to the Mossberg 940 Pro Tactical SPX. Now, that is a bit of a long name, but it is a very deserving shotgun.
Let me jump in here first, because I was aware of the 940 Pro Tactical when they first brought it out. In fact, Mossberg brought a bunch of hobos, unemployed hobos, which I refer to as a good description of like gun writers, brought us out to Gunsight, the famed Gunsight in Arizona, when they were first introducing the Pro Tactical, and they had a couple of different prototypes there, and they wanted to know what we thought about them, and we gave our advice and opinions, educated and otherwise. And they brought out the guns, and the guns were great, and they were solid. And then at some point they introduced the SPX version. And I had heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. And then several months ago, I got to go to Gunsight again for another Mossberg event. And for the first time, I got hands on that Pro Tactical SPX. And I thought it was just maybe they added some letters at the end of it, or it's clear that they put a different forend on there. But no, they've done a bunch of small changes to that gun, but all of those changes work. They are functional, and they make that gun, once you add the whole of all those small changes, they make that gun substantively better, which is why I was one of the people voting for it for Shotgun of the Year. Everyone will notice the handguard. The handguard is great. It covers more of the gun, so you're less likely to burn your hand. There are QD sockets for a sling. But one of the best things is Mossberg's redesigned the receiver mounted thumb safety, which has been unchanged, I think, since the first gun I ever bought, period, was a Mossberg 500. And the safety on that was the same as the safety that they had up until this brand new model. And this brand new model, ergonomically, it's a home run. It's much easier to work. It's a little bit bigger. And then it wasn't just that, but they improved all of the controls on this gun. It looks better. It works better. Internally, they didn't really have to do much, because between the 930 and the 940, they improved the internals so that the thing, Mossberg says that you can run it 1,500 rounds without cleaning, which means you probably can run it more than that.
Yeah.
And 1,500 rounds of shotgun ammo, that's a lot. And that means your gun is going to be dirty as heck. You're going to look like a chimney sweep when you're done. But kudos to Mossberg for doing a whole bunch of little things that added up to a huge difference. And that if anyone hasn't gotten hands on or eyes on that gun, they should, because it, as a tactical / defensive shotgun, if I didn't already have too much money invested already into other semi-auto shotguns, I would have already bought one, because it is such a great gun.
It looks good too. They've got some cool
Yes.
color variations.
And that makes a difference. Aesthetics matter. Ugly guns just don't sell, and everyone has different choices. But I think that's a good looking gun.
Well, as you can tell, I'm a fan of the OD Green, and they have an OD Green model that I have my eye on. So, yeah, that's gotta have the aesthetics these days. That it's a factor, right? When there's a lot of good competition out there, your gun needs to work. But if it looks good on top of that, that gives you an edge.
For me, a lot of people might say this is simply a line extension of the 940 series. I've hunted turkey with the 940 turkey version of it, the Pro 940 Pro. I've seen the evolution. I actually got into the gas system, and they did actually refine the ports in the gas system shrouded by this handguard. Not to overlook that feature. What's important about it is in my testing, I ran everything from number nines to buckshot and everything in between, and turkey loads. And the refinements they made to the gas system perfected what the 940 Pro was. And that's why I believe the Mossberg 940 Pro Tactical SPX is the shotgun of the year. The ammunition of the year for 2025 goes to Federal 7mm backcountry. And we added Federal to that because it is important to know that they were heavily involved in developing a new approach to cartridge case design. This cartridge case may be the way other manufacturers look to go with high pressure, high velocity cartridges in the future, especially pushing heavy bullets. And the 7mm, of course, we know is a very popular bullet caliber of this time, and Federal has a number of bullets that are paired with it, including the Federal Terminal Ascent. They have a 170 grain load. This is a very good option for those who might have to shoot a little bit farther. Great for people hunting in Western states. They have, the Berger Elite Hunter, and that is a 195 grain bullet. That's a heavier grain. And if you need to thwack something, excellent penetration coming from it, as well as the Barnes LRX, which is the long range expander bullet. It's a tipped copper bullet with 168 grain weight. And for those who are a little bit more cost conscious, there is an option with the Federal Fusion tipped 175 grain load, which is a little bit more of a conventional bullet design. And the case has more of a matte finish to it versus the other backcountry cases, but you get all the performance that you need, all those benefits and features that the backcountry offers.
Well, Erica, you kind of hit the nail on the head at the beginning there. It's that case, what Federal refers to as their peak alloy, is what's especially exciting. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, but this case technology allows us to get to pressures without necessarily having to change a lot in the rifle. We're getting higher pressures, which just seems to be the trend, particularly for the military. They're looking for high pressure rounds. And so it's interesting what this peak alloy case technology is going to go from here. Can you give us a bit more description? Your understanding is, I think, far better than ours. What it all is going into the peak alloy case design?
Well, one was the target of about 80,000 PSI chamber pressure. And a lot of people, that gets nervous, especially when you start considering what a proof round has to look like,
right.
Potentially in the 6-digit number range. But it's going to produce a cartridge that's going to shoot a projectile very flat and far with very little deviation, less subject to the influences of wind, for example, and really optimizing what the bullet performance is. As velocity of a bullet slows down as it goes farther away, the mushroom capabilities of it tends to be reduced, and it becomes a little bit more of a penetrator, type of round than an expander round, which is necessary in order to disrupt the vital organs, the heart and the lungs, and to become devastating. So, we want our animals to go down with authority, with very little drama. And this is the type of ammunition technology that's going to help deliver it. On the rifle side, it's also pushing firearm manufacturers to consider, how do their chamber walls look? Are they going to be able to withstand the proof pressure, the proof loads of these when they go to test their new actions for this cartridge. That said, the case design with that PEEK alloy contains a lot of that pressure, and it's going to be less dangerous than it would be if it were made out of brass. The PEEK alloy is not going to swell as much. It's You're not going to have that case, the bolt head setback that can suddenly happen, that can damage the chamber and the bolts of it. So whereas a lot of other ammo companies have been experimenting with reinventing the cartridge case, I think Federal has gotten the closest to coming up with a long-term solution.
How does it reload? Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Well, I know you can reload it a few times, unlike traditional steel cases. And I voted for this not necessarily because of the 7mm backcountry cartridge, which is solid. It does everything that Federal says it can do, but the potential of this new technology. And I think these higher pressure rounds are going to be the new big thing. We saw some of it with SIG and their 6.8 by 51 and their multiple piece case on those rounds. But the higher pressures enabling higher velocities out of this the PEEK alloy cases is something that is going to translate into significant downrange improvement in performance. And so manufacturers are going to have to figure out how to design barrels around that. I know SIG went with their AirMet steel, which is a much higher grade steel. You got to pay for it, but it lasts longer. But I know the military specifically is very, very interested in this case technology. They've already months ago been experimenting with. In fact, at the last SHOT Show, January 2025, I talked to J.J. Reich of Federal Ammunition, and I understood, and he talked about how the military was already interested in this case technology for the 5.56 because it allows them to get carbine velocities out of SBRs. You get the same velocity you might get out of a 16-inch barrel out of a 10-inch barrel. And I talked to Bill Geissley Automatics, who does a lot of work publicly and behind the scenes with a lot of the high-end and elite military units. And he's already been doing all sorts of work with this PEEK with Federal and the PEEK alloy cases. And he showed me video of shooting PEEK alloy 5.56 cases along with standard pressure cases. And the question, of course, is what's barrel life and what kind of pressure is it? Is it going to erode gas ports and stuff like that? And Bill, of course, it's very early days. I mean, we are like just starting to explore the potential of this new case technology. But he says that most of the pressure issues seem to be handled inside the case at the muzzle, because he wasn't seeing much difference, if any, in bolt speed or pressures at the gas port, which is just fascinating. Bill was fascinating, and he's a really technical guy. And when he's like saying, wow, that's impressive to me. And so I'm curious to see where we're going to see these Federal and other companies taking this PEEK alloy case technology, where we're going to see it in the next 5 or 10 years, because I think the higher pressure, higher velocity cases are where it's going to be, where we're going to see the breakthroughs, at least on the rifle ammunition side, in the next decade.
We all can agree that the 7mm backcountry is innovative. I also believe it's going to be foundational. And we're going to soon start seeing other cartridges introduced on the PEEK alloy case technology.
Yep.
All right, the 2025 Optic of the Year goes to the Burris XTR PS. And as of now, there are two varieties of it. There is a 3.3 to 18 by 50 millimeter, and there's a 5.5 to 30 by 56. Now, we gave the award to both versions of the scope. They both have different uses, but we're seeing a lot of innovation technology come from Burris. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about these scopes.
I will say that we have a lot of subject matter experts that come together at the round table, and we all have our own specific interests. And I'm the handgun editor, but I know a few things about a few things. I will say that I was not familiar at all with either of these rifle scopes, so I turned and looked at Tom Beckstrand.
Yeah, where's Tom?
The rifle and optics editor, and he was all in on the Burris's. And considering that Tom's forgotten more than I have ever known when it comes to rifles and optics, that tells me that these are great products. But I was like, I abstained because you don't know what you don't know. But I know Eric, I know both you guys know a lot about these scopes, and Burris has been solid in making a lot. For a company that a lot of people don't pay attention to, they've been doing a lot of groundbreaking work for the past 10 or 15 years.
I'll give you a little bit of idea. These are 34 millimeter tube diameter scopes.
Yeah.
They operate with, let's see. Oh, they have an internal hub. They have a programmable elevation knob, or PEK, as Burris calls it. Of course, we already mentioned the heads-up display data center, which what does that mean with the HUD? You can be behind the scope. You can simply lift your eye and look up to the top of it in order to see information such as your range setting, any wind holds that's coming from your Burris Connect app, and it can pair. It's really a very intelligent scope. And with the PS, that's a little bit more focused towards some of the precision shooting. But I'm told that they are going to have additional reticles. They have right now in this the SCR2 illuminated reticle. Other reticles are going to come out in this line. And for now, we have the options of quarter MOA adjustments, eighth MOA or 10th mil systems. So great quick dialing and extended range target scope. It's a very capable, very versatile scope. And with the also smartly, when I go to mount it, I just mounted one on top of the Benelli Lupo rifle for a hunt that's coming up. I appreciate the size of the objective lens, that it's not too large. It's going to interfere with the barrel. I like to have longer continuous rails on top of my rifles. But sometimes I run into an impact issue where the objective bell doesn't allow me to set the scope back close enough for proper eye relief. These scopes represent a modern rifle trend in terms of how people like to position the ocular lens in relationship to their eyeball and how high their comb is off of the stock. It's just a very well thought out system. And this is honestly where the pinnacle of scope technology is at the moment, not to mention their glass technology and their coatings.
And that right there, I think that is huge to convey to people, is that when you start putting a lot of electronics inside the scope, oftentimes with these smart scopes, and that's what they are, it's a smart scope. There's other technologies like it out there, but when you start putting a lot of electronics inside the scope itself, that you see when you look through the scope, you can see a degradation in the image quality. And yet these scopes, very nice image quality with the scopes, and you still have the heads up display that you can read as well, but it's not taking away from light transmission. Low light, you can still see what you're looking at quite well. And the electronics, the heads up, it assists you. It doesn't take over everything. It's there as you need it, there as you want it, but you still have your reticle. It doesn't take it only helps you. It does not take away from what the scope is trying to do.
I also found that it's very durable. A lot of electronics used to be very sensitive to recoil, especially on rifles such as a one chambered 300 Win Mag. Mm-hmm. This one is not sensitive to it. It's very durable. I never had one fail stop. The only time I ever changed batteries was, usually before and at the end of a hunt, just to be sure it didn't die on me during a hunt. But every time, they're very dependable. I'd recommend them to anyone.
The smart scopes are getting to be closer and closer to science fiction. And we're nearly to the point where you're able to mount multi-featured video cameras, basically doubling as rifle scopes on top of rifles, where they're able to do just about everything you possibly need from them while handling abusive recoil of 338 or whatever. And the technological advances in electronics are just amazing. And it's not just on scopes, but they're doing it on thermals, on white lights, on everything. You're seeing it across the board, and I'm glad I'm here for it.
No, I don't want to speculate too much, but it's only a matter of time before you integrate some kind of AI technology that can spot your own impact and then adjust accordingly. And now you have an AI-driven scope that auto-adjusts your reticle to your impact. And I don't think we're far out from something like that. But for now, the Burris, what an outstanding scope.
This conversation is a great segue to the 2025 Technology of the Year Award winner, which went to the Pulsar Thermion 2 LRF XL60 thermal rifle scope. And this truly is the smartest, most well-developed, thought-induced thermal that I've ever used. Now, I've used thermals going back in the Marines. When we went to Iraq, we had them on our vehicles as part of our 25 millimeter Bushmaster chain gun system. It was an amazing technology. There were some disadvantages. One, it consumed some power, and you needed almost a vehicle battery to support that kind of technology. Now we're talking about powering these thermals with little lithium 3-volt ion batteries, and Pulsar really did it well. This is the XL60, which has the highest resolution thermal that they've ever offered in a rifle scope. It's got an integrated laser rangefinder, which is important because if you're ever targeting potentially an animal, such as a coyote at dark or a hog, you don't want to shoot something that you can't positively identify. And
Right.
A little story, I was once on a hog hunt in Texas where we were looking at what we thought was a group of hogs. And I started setting up on the top of a fence post, dialing in, and I had to be careful because what I thought was a group of hogs just behind it off to the side turned out to be cattle. And at 800 yards, cattle look just right like hogs at 100 yards. So that would have been a very expensive hog hunt had I attempted such a shot. But I don't have that problem with the new Thermion 2.
I think I have a Pulsar sticker or something that's like the Chick-fil-A style cow that says "Please use Pulsar thermals." It's because of that situation with other people using thermals. But the XL60, Eric, this is your true Western predator hunter's thermal scope, right? Honestly, if you're just shooting pigs at 100 yards in a place in Texas, it's probably overkill. Now, it's a wonderful overkill because you are going to darn near see the eye in that pig with that thermal scope. But out west, when you're trying to find coyotes at hundreds of yards, the detection range is remarkable with the XL60. And on top of that, the closer you get, the higher quality the image is. And so if you're going to be Western predator hunting where you need to see for thousands of yards, this is a scope that you're going to see heat signatures at distance, and you start working. And then once you get to the right range, you'll be able to identify a coyote versus, not a coyote. So that's the big advantage of the XL60 is your detection range.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about night vision versus thermal. Night vision is cool, but thermal is the future. Thermal, and especially things keep getting better and better. The technology, the technology, the image quality, all of the things that you can do inside this scope are better than what you could get in thermals, even the classified military stuff 20 years ago, because the technology has improved so much. And just being able to, not just the digital zoom, but everything. Eric, you used them on your Bushmaster. I know someone who's a commander of a Bradley fighting vehicle in Iraq, and he had night vision and thermals, and he had to use both because the thermal could do things that night vision simply couldn't, and that's the true in combat, because our soldiers are now using thermals more and more than they ever did before. I believe Delta these days is now experimenting with a combination night vision and thermal quad optic that probably costs as much as my house. Um,
Yeah.
but because they're understanding that night vision does certain things really well, but thermal does other things better than anything else.
Mhm. You
And
mentioned you mentioned the cost real quick. That's one thing that I love about Pulsar is
Yeah.
it's taking
Yes.
this technology that used to be very exclusive to governments who could, throw down a black credit card and purchase whatever they wanted. In this case, everyday Americans,
Yeah.
whether it's a farmer out in Georgia or someone in Alabama or Texas, looking for, to ward off the coyote depredation of their livestock. I mean, the Pulsar Thermion 2 LRF XL60 is a great solution for all of those. But if you can afford one, let me also suggest that you also get a Pulsar monocular as a
Yeah.
companion, because you're often going to have the Thermion 2 LRF XL60 attached to a rifle. And I don't necessarily, for safety's sake, like to point the muzzle of a barrel at anything I do not intend to shoot. I love to scan the surrounding environment and identify my potential target with a handheld monocular not attached to a gun. And then once I've done that, close the distance and engage that target with the Thermion 2 rifle scope. But yeah, I don't like to necessarily seek and scan and target a potential
So
animal.
I love it
that's
for
not-
driving for that reason, because like we have a number of fields, farmers that'll let us go out and shoot coyotes on their fields. And so you drive to your field, you roll down the window, you look around. Do I see anything? Nope. Let's go to the next one. And now I'm not trying to not sticking rifles out of cars. That's how you get the game wardens to get very upset with you for a whole lot of reasons. But, firearm is safely stowed in the back. You roll up, you see a coyote a couple hundred yards out. Now you can know you can get out, go to the field, and begin your stalk onto the animal. And then on top of that, I really like the Thermion series because of how they mount to your rifles. I can actually put those on a bolt action rifle a lot easier than a simple. Most thermals seem to have like a Picatinny style rail attachment. The Thermion series and the XL60, it's a 30 millimeter main tube that takes traditional scope mounting rings. And so I can easily put that on my AR, but I also like to run it on my bolt action rifles too. If I know I'm going to be shooting at a coyote that's beyond 300 yards. And so I like having that option with the Thermion series.
The last thing I'll say to all that I particularly enjoyed in evaluating the Thermion 2 LRF XL60 is the menu. Navigating the menu is a lot easier. A long time ago, it seemed that the rifle scopes that were thermals, you had a difficult time figuring out what the toggle buttons were, how to get through the menu, how to zero the scope. This is the easiest scope to zero. This is the easiest one to perhaps change between a white hot to a black hot to a colorized thermal image, and also to activate then the video recording or the photo recording, which this also has that capability. Jim, you mentioned that a little bit earlier, and this is all built in the Thermion 2 LRF XL60.
long name. Well, I actually wanted to talk about that because Kevin Reese of Pulsar came out to our roundtable last year and gave a big presentation. And at the end of it, I was wondering whether or not I was going to get college credit for it because it was so deep and so knowledgeable, but it was very technical. But with these modern scopes, if you can figure out how to work your smartphone, different apps and features on your smartphone, you can figure out how to work these things. And they're designed so that you can, once you're familiar with them, you can work them in the dark when you're in the blind or down behind the rifle when it's on a bipod, and it's not an issue because they want you to use their product. They want you to use the product to the best of its ability, and to make it as simple as possible while allowing you easy access to all the features on the menu.
Some things are worth building right here at home. Watchtower Defense, founded by veterans who've worn the flag and understand what it means to defend it. Every firearm we make is 100% American-made, crafted with pride, purpose, and a promise that lasts a lifetime. Because this isn't just business, it's heritage. Watchtower Defense, a new generation of American firearms. Built here, built strong, guaranteed for life.
We've had a really good time shooting these on the range. Walk me through your experience so far.
All guns, all the time.
A pistol's only as good as the trigger. This has a good one.
You can't learn everything you need to know at the gun counter with one rack of the slide or one pull of an unloaded firearm. You got to do the slap.
If you're interested in firearms, don't miss this one.
Guns and Ammo TV. Watch now on Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, or My Outdoor TV.
Moving on, holster of the year. This holster of the year for 2025 goes to the Vertex SOCP Tactical Fanny Pack.
Who was
This
it? Was it you, Jack, arguing that it's not technically a holster?
Okay, so this is the irony of it. I wrote up the fanny pack for Guns and Ammo. I absolutely love it. I carry it all the time. I am absolutely during the summertime and it's hot and I just want to wear shorts and a t-shirt to go get groceries. I throw on the fanny pack and I'm rocking a full-size handgun, often in 10 millimeter, that I would not ever be able to carry on my gym shorts, right? But I struggled to wrap my mind around the idea of calling this a holster, but I guess it really kind of is. Like, what is a holster other than a means of safely carrying your firearm and that allows for quick deployment, and it checks the boxes. And so that's what it does. I prefer to carry it cross body. We did some time, and I can draw and shoot a 6-inch target from 7 yards in less than 2 seconds. It was not much slower than my typical, from the waist holster draw. And so I guess it is a holster, and but I did struggle to wrap my mind around calling it a holster at first, but I've made my peace with it. It is a holster and deserved of the year award.
Well, on my list of things that I read off 20 minutes ago about that I was not expecting to see come back, the fanny pack was one of them, because I was around back in the late 80s, I guess, when the first tactical fanny packs came out. I think the DeSantis gunny pack might have been the first one, and these were fanny packs specifically designed for carrying firearms concealed. And then they got bigger and bigger and heavier and then fell out of fashion and you didn't see them in a while. And all of a sudden now they're back, but very few people are actually carrying them around their waist. My youngest son is 23 now and just got out of the Army. And he carries one all the time. And it's just like Jack. It's not around his waist. It's cross body, across his chest. And he's got a Glock 19 in it.
I think that's, like one of the fascinating features of the Vertex fanny pack is that there is a panel for a body armor slot. So
they have a long-standing partnership with Premier Body Armor. Vertex has a partnership with Premier Body Armor, and Premier has specifically cut panels sized for various Vertex and Victos products, and this fanny pack is one of them. You can buy a soft body armor panel. I believe it's a level 3. And if you're wearing a crossbody, that panel is directly across your heart, exactly where you want it to be.
That's about all it covers. It's not covering your full upper body. It's if you're in a defensive fight and you get someone that's just they're on it and they get you dead center, it will stop up to a 44 Magnum. I've tested the body armor myself, and so I guess in theory it would work. Now you could still get lunged, or it's only covering this portion right here, but ultimately I would argue that is the most vital spot, right? You can survive a lung shot, you can survive a liver shot if you get to a doctor in time, but no one's gonna really, if you get direct center punched, you're gonna have a bad day. And so it's a fascinating feature. I don't expect it to get used all that often, but hey, it's there, right? But more importantly, though, it allows me to carry a full-size handgun conveniently without, you're not printing. I mean, it's just there. You see it. It's not like if I'm wearing, a typical shirt that I might wear around where you're going to notice if I have a full-size handgun on my hip trying to conceal that. This is just right there. It's rapid access. And yes, there is highly popular trends with the micro compact pistols, but as you guys will agree, the full-size handgun is far easier to shoot, and of course you have more magazine capacity. And so I mean, there's a lot of benefits, and on top of that, the EDC trend that you see, this fanny pack, I've got my phone, you can throw a tourniquet in there, maybe a little piece of quick clot gauze, your flashlight, your wallet. And like I said, when I go to get groceries in the summer, I am t-shirt and gym shorts, and I've got all the gear you could possibly want, and it's not that heavy. It carries comfortably is what was also important. It's often more comfortable than any inside the waistband holster that I've ever carried. So there's a lot of advantages to the fanny pack.
Well, it's also it doesn't scream tactical looking at it, but it is as feature rich and as tactical a product as you can possibly make a fanny pack. It's not just empty compartments for you to throw stuff. There's a hook and loop in there. The outside compartment for your phone has some clear on there that you can fold down, so you can. And there are some channels where if you're running earbuds that have cords, you can run it through into the fanny pack there. It's got an adjustable shoulder strap. You can do all sorts of different things with it. So it's not just a bag. There's all sorts of things that you can do with it. If anyone wants to go to their website, you can see all the different features that this has. But that's all of those are added up to the reason why it was chosen as holster of the year, because it was more than just a holster.
And that was, I absolutely love it, but it took me a minute to get there, but once I did, it is well deserved. The fanny pack is back.
The Vertex SOCP Tactical Fanny Pack. It's functional, it's versatile, and it's affordable. And those are the things that actually made it this year's holster of the year. Suppressor of the year goes to the Banish 12. And this is a shotgun suppressor, a bit unconventional in its design, but every bit of deserving once you use it on a gun. And of course, we shot it at the OSG Roundtable on Benelli Super Black Eagle 3s. And it just made shooting so much more pleasant. Not having to feel the concussion that reverberates back to the shooter and just focus on it. And it didn't actually interrupt the swing that much either when shooting at clay targets on the range.
Well, out of the gate, Eric, we collectively, at G&A editorial staff, probably put several thousand shells through the Banish 12. Not a single hiccup. Broke targets. Like to your point, I could point. It did not impact my style of shooting at all. You notice it kind of on the wings of the barrel a little bit, but in no way, shape, or form does it obstruct your front sight picture. It does not get in the way of your swing. And so, and the weight is not that bad. It does not add excessive weight to the end of your barrel. And so to get it on target quickly, you're not getting slowed down by excessive weight either, which I thought was impressive.
Well, it's 3D printed titanium, correct? And I think, in addition, it's on the technology side the past year or two. That's been where I've been seeing some really amazing things that really have me excited. Not just Federal's Peak alloy case, but the 3D printing, the additive manufacturing, the 3D printing of metal. Mostly seeing it on the suppressor side, but it is allowing manufacturers to do things that previously simply were not possible from a machining standpoint. And the Banish 12 looks funky because it's flat on the top. So whether you have tall red dot sights or tall ghost ring sights or a tiny little low bead set right on your barrel, you can still use them and the suppressor won't get in the way, but still it has that big deep belly providing that volume that will help suppress the sound of that shell going off. And because it's titanium and titanium is lighter, it doesn't add 8 pounds to the end of the gun that you notice when you're swinging it back and forth. It seems they were very smart in everything they did, and it just seems to be a home run while not being a copy of anything else on the market. They really thought outside the box for this one and did their own thing, and everything that they did seems to have worked.
And let's also mention how it attaches. It uses a choke system to be sure that the bore alignment is correct, because when we're talking about potentially shooting a payload of small pellets out of it, we need to be sure that they're grouped so that we don't necessarily damage the internal workings of how this suppressor operates.
I should build on that a little bit, Eric. So What's also fascinating with Banish 12 is it actually comes with chokes. So there's the mounting interface that threads into your barrel where your traditional choke would screw into. Then the suppressor mounts to that, and then it comes with 3 different chokes with the kit of the Banish 12, and that screws into the end of the suppressor all the way, and which is where your choke is supposed to be. So that is unique to the Banish 12, and this is clearly a hunting optimized suppressor. This is not really a tactically oriented, though you could throw this on, your Mossberg 940 that we talked about earlier. It would fit, but it's definitely hunting optimized. I believe the only shells that Banish claims they're not really too funky with are the flight controlled wads. As long as you're not using those, it ate all of the shells that we fed it at our roundtable event. We had quite an assortment of different shot shells, but it's hunting optimized, and it's interfaceable with all of the common mounts like the mobile mount, your Mossberg mounts, your Berettas, your Benellis, all Remingtons. If you're still rocking some old Remington shotguns, they have mounting interfaces for all of the popular brands on the market.
I believe the Banish 12 is also a preview for what 3D printing technology, the additive technology, is going to give us in the future, because now anything is possible.
Yeah.
The 2025 Guns and Ammo Innovation of the Year is the Caldwell Claycopter. And this has become one of our favorite, I hate to call it a toy, but it's one of our favorite tools around the house. They're very affordable. You can go out to any box store and purchase these things. They're not very expensive to buy the clay targets themselves, which come in a couple different sizes, and they act dramatically when you go and you hit them. So they almost simulate the effects of what you would shooting a dove on the wing. Very fast action. And if there's any sort of wind gust around, it is subject to that wind gust as well, acts differently. So,
well, here's what's especially innovative about the Claycopter is that there are similar-ish products on the market, but they are $800 or more, and the targets are priced to match. The Caldwell Claycopter, you can get it at most of your big box retail stores for less than $200. And more importantly, the targets themselves are there. So if you're running errands at Walmart, or you're rocking into a Bass Pro, or you're just buying something online, they're easy to acquire as a specialty target. It's a flying disc. It's compatible. It works with you can't just throw into your typical clay target thrower. You need the Claycopter thrower. But they are so conveniently accessible is what is especially innovative, that Caldwell was able to bring this product to scale across the entire country. And then on top of that, boy, getting tuned up before a bird hunt, as you said, they are eerily similar to how a dove flies. And so, and you can make a game of it. Yeah, it's kind of a toy, but this is practical training, getting tuned up before a bird hunt. We have had so much fun with it. And, we like to say it's as much fun for the thrower as it is the shooter, because you can make a game that you have a real challenge. The thrower, the goal is to try to trick the shooter. I can go stand behind you, Jim. You don't know where I'm going to be throwing from, which angle they're going to come. You have to react. And so it's legitimate training for a bird hunt.
Well, you use the term toy, and it's not a toy. The word pops into your mind simply because it's so much fun. Mm-hmm. Now this thing, it works exactly as advertised. And the first time I was ever around, I think it was at Gunsight again, and Jack was using it, and we were testing to see how far it would throw them, and how much
which is a little more than 100 yards.
Yeah, and farther with wind.
Farther with wind, yeah. We're finding that which is the same as you get when you're dealing with regular clay pigeons. They're affected. The flight path is affected by the wind, but you are a lot more versatile in where you can aim them than if you had just a clay thrower mounted on the ground. You can adjust the angle on that, but not a whole lot. Whereas with the clay thrower, the person can move around in between, shoot it at different heights, different angles. And I believe you can also adjust the speed on that too, can't
Yeah,
you?
you can slow them down pretty well, but then at full speed, they're cooking. Like this is not a putt course thrower here. Like
Right.
this is at full speed. You need to be able to react quickly, and with a little bit of practice, you can have them right along the ground where
Yeah.
they just hover just a foot off the ground or so, and it simulates a rabbit pair that are throwing. You can throw singles, true pairs, and now Caldwell is going to be in the gate in the docket. They've already talked about this. Is they're going to have glow in the dark targets.
Yes.
So. And then, okay, here's the other interesting thing.
I knew this was coming.
I was talking to the Jared Grove, the brand manager of Caldwell. Lots of military and law enforcement agencies have reached out to them asking about drone defense training. And because mainly, I suspect it's, they need to preserve a crime scene. You get some kind of, this is not, military coming in with a grenade. It's more, I don't want journalists or some random person contaminating a crime scene. I need to pop a drone. And so training, this is something that you can, so they have black targets now. They call them their drone targets. And I'm curious to see how realistic that would be for anti-drone training. So time will tell, I suppose.
I would be remiss if I also just didn't mention the functionality, the intuitive operation of the battery packs, which it has a detachable battery pack that makes you think of a detachable AR magazine in how you detach it, but it uses a modern USB-C charger in order to plug it in and get the full battery life out of it. That said, during our testing, I'd never run the battery down to zero on one of these. It will last all day, it seems.
It does.
Even though you could change the batteries. If you had 2 batteries, I think you're good for a day, no matter what happens.
You'd be hard pressed to shoot all the battery out. I would applaud you, sir, if you were able to run that battery dry, because you're shooting a lot.
It's very simple to use. The battery goes on the back. The Claycopter targets, you load them on the front and click them in, and then you just basically point and pull the trigger, and it works exactly as designed. And like I said, I've never seen it. We've never used them for hours and hours and hours, but I think you run out of targets before you run out of battery.
Yeah. And anything that will shoot a projectile has to have a safety. This one is included too. You've got to depress a safety at the front before it winds up and releases either of these targets. And I love all the thoughtfulness in the features. It's truly innovative. It's truly affordable. It's truly made for the masses. It appeals to anyone of all ages. I think everybody out there should go out there and get one of our 2025 Innovations of the Year, the Caldwell Claycopter.
Well, one last thing, if I can add, it is also just the first of many products to come. And I recently had some hands-on experience with a new extension of the Claycopter line. I don't want to give too many spoilers. It will be featured on a new season of Guns and Ammo TV, Sporting Clays 101. And let's just say you could build your own Sporting Clays course at home for next to nothing. And it is incredible.
You're
So
right. These things, for very little money, you can turn any back 40 into a clay ring.
Yes, exactly.
All right. The Guns and Ammo Red Dot of the Year for 2025 goes to the Aimpoint Koa and A-Cut. Now, this design, developed by Aimpoint, was initially launched on the Glock pistols that, previously you would have expected an MOS type cut on there. This is the A-Cut pattern, and the A-Cut is just as innovative as the Optic, which is why it earned, the both designs are
kind of
truly engineering feat. Yes, the award applies for both. But let's talk a little bit about the Koa and the A-Cut.
Well, I talked a lot about the Claycopter, Jim. This is going to be your. This is all you.
Okay. Well, first, it's an enclosed optic, just like the Aimpoint Acro. Yeah. And honestly, if you look at them side by side, the Acro has a much larger exterior, but the window is just about the same size of both of them. So Aimpoint figured out, technology continues to improve. Aimpoint figured out how to give you basically the same size window in a much smaller sight. And as a result, when you're aiming, when you're looking through it, the housing of that red dot, the housing of the optic almost disappears, almost ghosts out like in a ghost ring. But then the other thing is, of course, the A-cut, where the optic is almost dovetailed into the slide in the front, and then at the rear, what clamps it down is a redesigned steel rear sight that goes down and mounts into the slide and is screwed down, and that holds the optic down at the back. But because of how the optic at the front is basically in a lip machined into the slide, there's under recoil, it's not fighting against any screws. There's really no torque on any screws or any mounting plates or anything like that. And it's almost nothing's unbreakable, but it's about as idiot proof, as damage proof as you're going to find in any sort of mounting pattern.
The fasteners are usually the failure point for a lot of optic mounted pistols.
Well, let me jump in on that, because I was at Gunsight last year and I talked to the gunsmithy, and about in their basic class, their basic pistol class is their 250. And right now, over half the students in every 250 class are running optics. And about half of them have problems between the beginning of the class and the end of the class. However, of the problems that they're having, only about 5% of them are actual problems with the optic. The other 95% of them are problems with the mounts or the screws. Mounting solutions like the A-cut eliminate that issue.
Let's put that in perspective really quick. A typical Gunsight 250 class, in a given week, you're going to shoot between 3,500 and 5,000 rounds of ammunition. So that is an unusual amount of ammunition being put through a variety of firearms that show up to Gunsight.
Yes.
And, it speaks quite a bit to the significance of what this A-cut and Kowa innovation does for handguns.
Well, and I will honestly say that the factory Glock MOS mounting system is one of the worst factory mounting systems for optics. And, Glock is basically working with Aimpoint, completely redeemed themselves, because this is a huge improvement. And this is going to be maybe not the standard, but it's going to be the example for a lot of different companies as to how to figure out how to mount an optic to a pistol with little to no failure point in the mounting system. And it's exclusive to Glock for the first year, which I don't know if we're to the end of that year yet or not,
right?
But it's we got to be close.
I believe January 2025 is when that exclusivity agreement started. So, but what's also important to that is right now, the only thing that could have been made against this was that how available is the Kowa and A-cut right now? It's actually hard to find, but it's not because there's not a lot out there.
No.
Tens of thousands of them, but they're all going to law enforcement.
Well, that's
and military contracts right now.
Glock has ceased commercial sales of their pistols with the Kowa, and now it's only exclusively law enforcement, and that's because of all of the issues, perceived and real, going on with the SIG 320. A lot of law enforcement agencies are backing away from them and looking to replace them with pistols that have optics mounted on them. And Glock's always been a big favorite with American law enforcement. And so as a result, Glock simply couldn't keep up with the demand for the Kowa on the law enforcement and the commercial side. And as Glock normally does when given the choice between the two, they always go to law enforcement. So it's by the
those
time
orders will be fulfilled at some point, though,
Yes.
and this is going to start being seen commercially more and more. I've already had a couple of these on the Glock 43X, that series, as well as the Glock 19 and the Glock 17 series. These are fantastic pairings. I'm anxious to see the A-cut starting to go to other brands, and let's start seeing other handgun designs with the Kowa on top, mounted securely with
someone
NACO.
who has to change red dots all the time for work, I would be thrilled to see some kind of uniform, mounting interface for pistols. But gosh, I'm not holding my breath. But I very much hope to see more expansion of the A-cut, because it's quick and easy to mount.
I think by the time. I think by the time most people get around to seeing a unsold Glocks with Kowas in their gun store shelves, that you're going to be seeing the A-cut in different handgun designs on the market, provided those companies can get the Kowa from Aimpoint. Although Aimpoint seems to be doing a good job of keeping up with demand. They've had a number of interesting products. I mean, they've got the new
multi-reticle,
Duty
RDS.
Duty RDS MR.
MR,
so
that's right.
Between that and the Kowa, they've had a couple of really interesting new red dots from the company that basically invented red dots. So Glock, the company that perfected, at least if you ask them, perfected the polymer frame striker fired gun, teamed up with the company that invented red dots, and you've got the Kowa and the A-cut, and that's one of the reasons why it got the award from us, is because they were they impressed us, and it's more than what you might think once you dig into the details.
Yeah. I mean, and some of those details, if you look at the Kowa, it actually is no real wider than this typical slide width of a pistol, which means that it's very compatible with the holster market out there. A lot of holsters, especially duty holsters that have hoods over them to protect the optics, it's instantly compatible with a lot of those. It's very protected, despite it's got a thinner wall around the window, even though it's enclosed. It's still very durable. You've got a great field of view with it, and the buttons, the controls are very intuitive. It's right there for your support hand thumb to operate the plus and minus intensity levels. It's got all the intensity level settings that you would want, plus night vision settings, and the battery is easy to change without having to remove the optic from the slide. And for these reasons, the Aimpoint Kowa and the A-cut get Guns and Ammo's 2025 Optic of the Year. Jim, Jack, thanks for joining me and having this conversation on the Guns and Ammo Buzz podcast. We appreciate your time here. Can't wait to see what else comes out in 2026. Let's get back together and talk about those when time comes.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.